Hello and welcome to the Families for Literacy Storytelling Necklace Workshop. This portion of the video is geared specifically toward family literacy coordinators and youth services librarians. I'm going to tell you all about how to order your beads for this workshop, how to host it, some things to keep in mind for your families, extension activities, and the rationale behind this program that we put together. My name is Kim Noriega, and I'm a family literacy consultant, and I was the family literacy coordinator for Read San Diego Public Library's adult literacy program for 13 years. And prior to that, I worked in Branch Library Division with San Diego Public. So I have quite a bit of experience. This particular activity is just near and dear to my heart. As I'm sure you are aware, telling stories through beads and necklaces is a long-standing tradition in many cultures. But this particular version of it, I learned from a fellow librarian. His name was Mr. Kim Schmidt. And oddly enough, he also grew up with my family in Cleveland. Unbeknownst to me at the time, he knew relatives of mine there. So it was a fun thing to learn about him, but he's the one that turned me on to it. This, as you can see, is the Wizard of Oz story necklace. And it was one that Mr. Kim made and I coveted and admired, and he ended up giving to me. And that's how story necklaces were born for me, putting them into this process of working with kids and teaching them all about stories and storytelling and helping them to develop their language skills and their reading skills in a really fun way. So what I would like to do first is I'm going to show you some information about how to do this. As you see, I have some necklaces behind me too. You can use this practice or this type of activity for so many different stories. As long as they have key images that you can identify, you can make a story necklace out of it. So I want to show you a few things, but about the workshop, the video version of the workshop, which will be made available to you. Also, all of the handouts are available to you. They'll be emailed to you. You can print them out and have access to them. And always, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to contact me, and I'll be very happy to help you out. I mentioned two parts of the video, and I wanted to also mention the third part is a parent-caregiver topic that explains the rationale also for the parents and caregivers behind the storytelling necklaces, what explicitly their children are learning from doing it and making the story necklace, as well as what they're learning from storytelling and how those match up with English language standards that they need to learn for school. And also, it has some extension activities, some ideas for them to do with their kids for different age ranges, all of which those kinds of handouts you're going to receive and be able to distribute to your families. So let's get started. I want to show you parts of that video that's available to the families. I also want to show you a couple of other things. In the video that I share with families, that you can share with them, that is the whole program of making a story necklace from home. We start out with this activity, which is called The Cool Breeze Blows. It is taken from Life is Good Playmakers, and you receive the information about different games from Life is Good in your packet of goodies that come along with this workshop. Also, you receive all the rationale behind the activities that Life is Good Playmakers put out. It's really worthwhile, and I highly recommend looking into that. This game, we start as an icebreaker with the families. The way this works is that you say, the cool breeze blows, and then you give an example of something that someone might like, and have them do an action of making a cool breeze while to indicate that that's something they all like. So it would be either like breeze, or like this little girl blowing on it. You can change up the activities. You'll see that we'll do that a bit. And you can do this in person or on Zoom. If you do it in person, I recommend doing it in a big circle and having them do the action as they walk across the room to a different location in the room. So the point of this activity, beyond being a lot of fun and a great icebreaker, is to help people in the room create sort of a cohesive group in recognizing what we have in common and the differences that we have, and respecting those things. So for instance, the cool breeze blows for everyone who likes ice cream. The cool breeze blows for everyone who likes the color blue. If they don't like the color blue, they don't have to say anything. They can just remain still, and you can explain that to them. This really gets, gets people moving. If they're at home and they're doing this activity and they have a large family, they can still do it in a circle. It's a lot of fun, and it's a fun way to get people engaged. Then we change it up to go along with our theme. The wild things roar. You can invite them to show you their best roar. Wild things roar for everyone who loves grapes. Arr! And these are all, as I said, these are all from Life is Good Playmakers, and you have all the information about them. They also have wonderful videos online. I'll include a list of resources in your packet that you receive by email, and there'll be some videos there that you can watch of their chief playmaker, who talks about the ideas behind Life is Good Playmakers. A lot of play, a lot of really intentional play that is a wonderful activities for kids and families. Okay, so our story, Where the Wild Things Are. I chose this for the making the necklaces with families because so many people are familiar with the story, and there's the book, there's the movie. If you do this program in person and you have the opportunity to extend it over a series, like 4 weeks or 3 weeks, you can really take advantage of the extension activities. You could show the video one time, part of the video or the whole thing. You can read the book together prior to making this. I'll show you a little bit later. There's some other things you can do as well. But Where the Wild Things Are. So that you know, the storytelling necklace, it is, I'm wearing mine. You can wear it as a bracelet also, which is kind of fun. But so the storytelling necklace, it works on the same idea as a flannel board, which a lot of people in libraries and working with kids are familiar with. Just like in a flannel board, you take key images from the story that kind of carry the story, and you represent those in flannel, or in the case of the storytelling necklace, you represent those with a bead. Representing them as a bead takes that connection or that abstraction just one step further from these pictures, right, of flannel board. And it really is a wonderful thing to see how quick the kids get it. Even the younger kids, 4 years old, they really get it. Like this bead means this. So obviously one of the things you're doing there is you're connecting. It's just like the alphabetic principle. You're connecting a symbol with something that it represents. With older kids, you can even move this further. You can extend this. They can do a movement that represents a portion of the story, right? They can make art that represents a portion of the story. And so it's a wonderful skill to use, or activity, to use for creativity development, for their imagination, but it also is important for them for connecting those abstractions, for learning how to make abstractions from text that they read, which is a valuable literacy skill. So to host one of these workshops, you need, of course, to order beads. you'll receive in your email, you'll receive this spreadsheet that has all the information you need to know to order beads for varying numbers of participants in your program. You'll see to the far left, it shows you the quantity of beads that you need per necklace. So when you go to bag your beads up for, for your program, you'll know exactly how many to put into the bag of each type of bead. You'll notice that these are linked so that you can go right to the website of the vendor or the exact bead that I'm referring to. You'll see next to that, it says the vendor, the quantity that you'll receive in each package, the way they sell them, the price per package, the price per necklace for your budgeting purposes, and then the number of necklaces you can make per package, just in case you're interested in all that math. But also I have it broken down for how much you need to order of each bead type for each quantity of necklaces. So for instance, if you wanted to make 200 necklaces, you've got a huge group coming, you're going to need 4 packages of your opaque or sparkly black beryl beads. I also have it for smaller amounts, smaller necklace amounts like 20 and 40. So this will be in your email that you receive. You'll also get the bead map. Now the bead map is the key to making the story necklaces. You see that this is exactly how it looks, what you'll receive. Those are images of the beads, and they match up exactly with the beads that we're recommending you to order. So what the kids are going to do, families are going to do, is they will take their beads that they receive in their bag that you provide them. They'll take those beads and they will match them up, exactly with what's on their bead map. I recommend that they do like 2 of these at a time, side by side. If you have a lot of space, you can provide them with a piece of cardboard, which is kind of cool. They can tape it down and do a little bit more before they string them. But I think it's best to do a couple at a time and then put them on the string so the beads don't end up all over the place. A little caveat here that is important to mention, and I do mention this in both of the other videos, is that obviously this program is not appropriate for very small children. It's a choking hazard. Beads can be a choking hazard. I've never had a problem with this, honestly. When parents come and they have a little one, they always watch them and mind them closely, but just have that awareness. And provide something else for the smallest ones to do, whether that's coloring of where the wild things are images, or making a mask or something else so that they feel included and they are a part of the story. So the bead map, they're going to lay out their beads and then they're going to string them. And I do go into exactly how to do that in the video for the families. But you're going to give them a little piece of elastic cord. That's also noted there where to buy that and how long to cut it and all those good things. So you'll get a piece of the elastic cord, and so they can make their story necklace. The other nice thing that you can do with this bead map is you can print it out on cardstock, and then you can use this as an extension activity to work with either storytelling, so they can take the words from the story and they can mix the cards up and make a whole new story. For instance, it could be, on the night that my mother decided to go into the forest, whatever they want to do. So you can pass those cards out as story cards and they can make new stories out of them. You can also print duplicates of each of these and do the memory game, which is a lot of fun to do by turning the cards over and then they can, match them up. Those are wonderful ways to extend the learning in this, whether you're doing that in a library setting or a classroom setting, or if you're doing it at home, if the parents are doing it at home. Anything to work on that vocabulary, right? So those are 2 ways you can do that. Here's the other things that you're going to receive along with all the information about how to order. You'll receive a copy of Where the Wild Things Are Reader Theater version. And if you're doing this over a period of time with older kids, they really do love to make these necklaces because they like the beads too, just like the medium-sized kids do. But with the older kids, that kind of mid-range group from say 8 to 10 or 11, Reader's Theater is fabulous to do with them. Prior to making the necklace. So you can do the Reader's Theater version, you can make masks. If you have a little bit of extra time, that's a wonderful thing to do as a part of this project. The other thing, and you can send that home too, if you're doing the Zoom version of this, or you're doing just sharing the video with them, they can work on that at home together. I recommend you provide them with the book. If you have the budget for it, it's really fun to also give them the movie, and you can have conversations about that, the differences between the two. The other thing you'll see here is called the telling points of where the wild things are. This gets into some of the extension activities that apply to English language arts standards. So for instance, beginning, middle, and end of stories, and helping them to identify, what are the key components of the beginning of the story? What are the key components of the middle of the story? What are the key components of the end? And it has this broken out. You can make this a lot of fun by, so you'll notice this page actually makes two. So one for a parent and one for a child. And you can do this, if you're doing this in person, you can have people stand in a circle or sit in a circle, and you can let them read it till they get familiar with the different telling points. It's a great way to start having them learn the story before they do their beads. And you can have them roll the ball back and forth, or if they're ready to do throwing the ball, they can do that, tap a beach ball back and forth as each one reads the next line, the next beginning, the next end. And as they get to know it, if you're especially doing a series, they can more and more do it just by knowing the next thing that happens, which is a lovely way to help them learn that story. It's a great activity to do at home too. The other thing you'll receive to the left of the screen, you'll see Where the Wild Things Are, and it talks about how to use a story necklace. This is something you can pass on to your families. The rest of it is kind of heavy text that is a rubric I adapted from English language arts standards for first and second graders. So that you might want to just cut this page in half. But it talks about how to use the storytelling necklace, that each bead represents a key image from the story, and that the way that you do it is you go around the necklace bead by bead and telling the story. A nice activity that you can also do, especially with the older kids, is after they've mastered telling where the wild things are, you can also have them make up new stories about their bead necklace. They really like doing that. Mike, I've done this program with so many different age groups and over different periods of time. And the thing is that's so cool is they get so excited about receiving their beads, especially if you have some time ahead of dishing those out. If you have a couple of weeks ahead of time and you're working with the story, you're playing with vocabulary, you're doing things, and then they get their beads. Oh, they are so excited to get their beads. It's really cool. So the bottom half talks about the way that making these necklaces matches up with English language standards. There's an overview of benefits that you see there. Number 2 talks, for instance, about increased comprehension by deeper engagement with text. That's what we're doing with all these extension activities. You can do some of those if you're hosting this in person, even in one day. You can also send the rest of it home for the families to do as part of their homework, their fun homework, of course. So those are things to know. You can integrate other activities along with this. They can be writing a little bit as well. If they're older kids, they could write down the different words. There's a lot of make a new story out of the vocabulary from the text and write it down. So there's so many ways to use this. It increases confidence as well. There, obviously, so there's oral expression, which is so critical. And they're learning, it does help them to learn how to put a story in their own words. That's one of the actually key benefits, I think, that using the story necklaces. They're learning that they don't have to say verbatim what's in the book. They can learn to put something in their own words, which is a vital skill for success in English classes later on, is being able to interpret and express. To the right, you'll see a handout that is made specifically to hand out to parents and caregivers. It talks briefly about some of these, about the benefits for families of storytelling and the storytelling necklace. And it's made in a fun way for families to have at their disposal. It's not a real high level text, as you'll see, but some families might not be able to read it. I do have it available to you both in English and in Spanish. And so you have that for your ESL classes too. This is a great ESL activity, by the way. As I mentioned, tapping a beach ball around is great. Even just doing activities with the language and the words from the story with a beach ball back and forth. You can just do a warm-up. If you're doing this program in person, you can do a warm-up by just tapping a beach ball back and forth and saying different verbs, different nouns. They can be from the story or not. These are some of my very favorite things ever. They're these fluff balls that I got originally from Life is Good Playmakers when I did their training. I recommend buying a lot of these, and they are very soft and won't, don't hurt if you get hit. I still recommend not hitting in the head, but occasionally, it won't hurt if they get hit in the head, only like if they get hit in the eye. But these are so much fun to do. If you're standing in a circle and you start off with just like tossing one back and forth, saying a verb, and then as they get going and they're having fun, you just keep tossing them in, and before you know it, there's balls flying everywhere, and it's a great way to get them moving and to keep them engaged. Also, there's a bingo sheet that'll be provided to you in the email with all the goodies. You can do this during your class together if you're doing it in person, or you can send this home for them to play as a family, or both. And this is just a picture of a little girl playing the memory game. And that's such a wonderful way to play with vocabulary, and also to be playing with those images matched to the word. So if you're cutting up the bead map, that's a really nice activity. Even for the smallest ones, they can say it from the picture. And here is a picture of us doing this project with the Diamond Educational Excellence Partnership. So these are a little bit older kids, as you see. You notice how they have their bead maps spread out. They have their scissors and tape and their beads on a paper plate, which I recommend, or even a little box. Let me show you. I do have so I have a little box lid that's perfect for them to put their beads in so they don't go sprawling all over the place. They do need tape, as you see there on the table. They need tape, they need scissors, and then the beads and the string that you provide for them. I actually recommend what we've done in the past when we're giving these out for families to do this project at home. If you don't know for sure that your families have tape at home or little scissors at home, I think it's great to just add that right to the bag. They make those little dispensers of tape and kids' scissors, and I just put that right in the bag, so I'm sure they have everything they need, and send that home. But you can see they're making their long necklace here, and how they move those, put the beads on the bead map and then string them. So I've mentioned doing this in person or doing this at home, the home version. When we have done it with the home version, whether it's Zoom or the video, what we do is we have them sign up in advance to receive the supplies, and then we host a book fair. And I recommend that because it really helps to get people to come and pick up their supplies. We give away parts of class sets or sometimes things that we have obtained through First Book, which is a wonderful resource at a very reduced cost. That's stacked in the back, I recognize from being like we had to pay $0.25 a piece, I think, for those. And so we give away, we just put all the books out and let them take as many as they like, because obviously you don't have to haul them all back to your office or your storage facility. So that really does increase their participation of coming to pick up their supplies. We usually do that like the Saturday before the Zoom meeting or the Saturday before the video release. So they come and get their stuff. And we do it like a little open house, a couple of hours with refreshments and music and maybe a little video playing of where the wild things are, or, you know, whatever suits. And that way they can stop in at, you know, when it works for them and pick up their materials. And we have those arranged in little bags alphabetically by the parent's first name, parent or caregiver's first name, so they can just help themselves. And that has worked out very, very well. We started doing book fairs quite a ways back to get rid of books that were remainders of class sets that we probably wouldn't use anymore, but also just as a lovely way to get more books in the hands of our families. And that's worked out great. So that's a recommendation I have. And then, of course, at the end of your program, at the end of the video that I provide, we're going to ask families to take a moment to reflect on what they learned by doing the activity together. It'd be lovely if they did this as a family and had a conversation about it. What did they learn about stories and storytelling? Something that I always share with parents, and I do in the video for the parent topic, is I tell them that there's a key to getting kids to speak a little bit more about something, like to extend those sentences from one-word answers or two-word answers, and that is, tell me more. That we used to make that as a magic wand to give out to the families, parents and caregivers. It's like, this is the magic wand. If that sentence is a magic wand, and just say to your child, oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. I would really like to know more about that. Tell me more about that. It doesn't work all the time. It's not perhaps going to work with a teenager who has gone quiet on you, but it will work a lot with younger and medium-aged children. And, you know, just I let parents know, caregivers and parents know, that their attention is on their children is really a magical thing. You know, like their children want that attention. And so focusing that attention, tell me more about that, is really helpful. So that's something to bring up in the reflection time with them. There we go. So just about how to make the story necklace now, I do show them in the video exactly how to go about this. And like I said, I recommend a handy dandy box lid, or you can use a paper plate that works nicely too, preferably probably maybe 2 paper plates. And the really important thing to do is to tape down the string, either in the box that you're using or on the paper plate, because I can't tell you why this is, but it's almost a given that just when you get almost all your beads on that piece of string and you think you're almost done, they're going to come off the back end. So just tape it down like that, and then you just put your beads on the bead map and then pull them from there and just start stringing them onto your string. When they're all done, you just tie it in a really strong knot, you know, a few knots. Some of the younger kids are going to need a little help with that, and parents that have multiple children attending, they're going to need a little help. You don't want to make it too tight, because if they've missed a bead, you want to be able to slice that and add it in someplace. So starting out, just make it a little loose. They can tighten it up later on, you know, if they're sure about it. And you don't want it to be so tight that they can't move the beads. And then if you can time this and see how it goes. Sometimes it's hard to get it so that they can all tell the story together at the end, because they're finishing at different times and they need to go. But in the video, we will tell it all together at the end, because they can do that on their own time. So I think that's really fun to do with them if you can. We start with, from the bead map, you notice possibly that we start with a butterfly bead so that we can find where the story starts once it's all around the necklace. And then you just go around and tell it bead by bead, you know? So it's on the night that Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. His mom, which is the heart, his mom said, "Max, you are a wild thing," and sent him to bed without any dinner. And that night in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew. And an ocean came with a sailboat. And Max got in the boat and he sailed night and day and in and out of weeks and almost over a whole year to where the wild things are. And they showed their terrible claws and they gnashed their terrible teeth until Max tamed them with a magic trick, abracadabra. And they made him king of all the wild things. And Max said, "Let the wild rumpus start." And they danced and sang until Max said, "Now stop." And he sent them to bed without any dinner. But then Max was lonely and blue, to Blue Heart, and wanted to be where someone loved him most of all. So he gave up being king of all the wild things. And the wild things said, "No, Max, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." But Max said, "No." And he got back in his boat and he sailed through night and day and in and out of weeks and almost over a whole year back into the night of his very own room, where he found his dinner waiting for him. It's a spaghetti dinner. And it was, all together everyone, still hot. And there you have it. That's Where the Wild Things Are story necklace. And I hope you've enjoyed this little informational session. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Literacy Initiatives for allowing me to do this. And I will put my contact information so that if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me, because this is just a project that I just love sharing with people. It's so much fun, and kids love it. The parents love it too, actually. I highly recommend having everyone make a necklace, because that way everybody can tell their story together. All right, thank you so much for being here with me today.